The British government is set to pay out millions of pounds in an attempt to circumvent the wheel of justice and conceal its crimes against humanity by paying off a Libyan dissident and his young family who were kidnapped by MI6, returned to Libya and tortured. Mr. Sami al-Sadi alleges that he, his wife and their 4 young children were kidnapped with the aid of MI6 and rendered to Tripoli. He claims that he was imprisoned and tortured for years under the Gaddafi regime. The Foreign Office has agreed to pay al-Sadi £2.23 million to halt legal proceedings in the High Court against former Labour Party Foreign Secretary Jack Straw and Sir Mark Allen, the former head of counter-terrorism at MI6. The proceedings alleged that Straw and Allen were complicit in torture and degrading treatment, conspiracy to injure and conspiracy to use unlawful means. Al-Sadi was a leading member of the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, which staged a series of attempts to overthrow Gaddafi in the 1990s, and just like Al-Qaeda, also has links to the CIA. He alleges that while in exile in China, he had contact with British intelligence, who lured him and his young family to Hong Kong for a supposed meeting with the British High Commission about transferring to the UK, but instead he and his family were abducted in a joint UK and US operation. He claims that he and his family were hooded, handcuffed and their legs tied together with wire before being handed over to Gaddafi's security forces. Although al-Sadi's wife and children were released after 2 months, he was imprisoned and brutally tortured for 6 years. He also claims that on one occasion he was interrogated by British intelligence, who ignored his complaints of torture. In a statement issued via his solicitor, al-Sadi said, "My family suffered enough when they were kidnapped and flown to Gaddafi's Libya. They will now have the chance to complete their education in the new, free Libya. I will be able to afford the medical care I need because of the injuries I have suffered in prison. I started this process believing that a British trial will get to the truth in my case, but today, with the government trying to push through secret courts, I feel that the process is not the best for my family. I went through a secret trial once before in Gaddafi's Libya. In many ways, it was as bad as the torture. It is not an experience I care to repeat." He added, "Even now, the British government has never given an answer to the simple question, were you involved in the kidnap of me, my wife and my children?" For years, Straw and other Labour ministers had denied any involvement in rendition and torture, but their lies were exposed after the US-led overthrow of Gaddafi in 2011. CIA documents found by Human Rights Watch stated, "We are aware that your services had been cooperating with the British to effect Sadi's removal to Tripoli. The Hong Kong government may be able to coordinate with you to render Sadi and his family into your custody." So let's dig a little deeper here. Why such cooperation between a dictator and the British government? Well, on March 24th, 2004, just 2 days before the al-Sadi family were abducted, former Prime Minister Tony Blair made the infamous deal in the desert with Gaddafi. At the time, the British government was seeking support for the war on terror, and as a result of the deal, Blair managed to secure a lucrative oil contract for BP and for Shell. Kat Craig, director of the legal charity Reprieve, which acts for Sadi, said, "We now know that Tony Blair's deal in the desert was bought with ugly compromises. Perhaps the ugliest was for MI6 to deliver a whole family to one of the world's most brutal dictators. However, such payouts are nothing new. Just last year, the British government bought the silence of 16 alleged terror suspects, paying around £1 million each to settle charges of British involvement in abuse and torture. Such bribes are proof that the British government are guilty of horrendous crimes of abduction, torture and rendition, and are also complicit in a global criminal enterprise that sponsors regime change wherever it sees fit through funding and arming terrorist groups, and conducts illegal wars of terror for profit, resulting in the systematic killing of innocent civilians, all in the name of freedom." Well, that's all from me for today. Please share this information and wake people up to the shameful crimes of the establishment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.